Ladies and gentlemen, earlier today I uploaded a video breaking down our very first trailer for Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and in that video I said that there was much more story within that trailer that we could break down. I wasn't lying, but as far as what I said in that video, I said if you guys want to see that type of video and would enjoy that type of video, hit that like button. You guys smash that like button, and all I ask is if you enjoy these videos, you like these type of story videos, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, all of that kind of jazz. It shows me you want to see more like this. Now, this one is interesting, but I have to approach it in a very different way because this one involves real world history. And as far as that goes, we all know history can be very, very boring. But the interesting part about this is that this history is twisted just a little bit to fit the narrative of Black Ops, and specifically Black Ops 6. So they are telling a real world story here with a twist. And to do this, I thought that the trailer that they put out was a little bit boring simply because they put the whole thing in black and white. So I went ahead and added a little bit of pizzazz to it.
We're recording. Truth is, your whole life is a lie.
That is right, we added some color to make it a little more interesting. Now, there's essentially multiple different stories that we all have to put together into one here. So start out from the very beginning of this trailer. We have two people talking to each other who are Bill Clinton and a mysterious interviewer. So when we take a closer look at this interview, it actually sets the time period for when it is taking place. We see off to the right-hand side a Clinton for president kind of poster or newspaper. I'm not sure which it is, but it clearly says Clinton for president. So from this, we can take away that this is from before Clinton was president. So what this means is that he was elected in the year 1992. Therefore, this either takes place in 92 or slightly there before in the year 1991, closer towards the end. However, if we look back to 91, some notable dates for the Gulf War is on February 23rd, 1991, we had the ground assault portion of Desert Storm. On February 26, 1991, we had the Highway of Death happen. And finally, on February 28, 91, we had the end of the Gulf War. Now, as Clinton is being interviewed, he says this:
Your whole life is a lie.
Now, originally, I thought it was the next character who we're going to talk about who was interviewing Clinton here, but after reviewing this, I don't think that is the case, and the question of who is interviewing him is going to become increasingly important as we go through this. That brings us to our next character, the character that you are seeing here. He is sitting inside of a vehicle wearing glasses, and he goes by the name of Colin Powell. He is very, very important for the time of the Gulf War, and I would be willing to bet that he is one of the main characters within the campaign. Now, let's go into a little bit of backstory on him. Colin Powell. At the time of 1991, he was the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff. Now, if you don't know what that is, let me fill you in on what they do. Essentially, they are the most senior military officer in the United States Armed Forces. They are the military advisor for the president, the National Security Council, Homeland Security, and the Secretary of Defense. In other words, they're the advisor for everyone on everything. Now, it just so happened that Colin Powell held this position from the year 1989 to 1993, the exact time period that Black Ops 6 is said to take place. But oh, it goes way deeper than this. Remember when I was talking yesterday in my video about Frank Woods about the invasion of Panama? This is the mission where we see Frank Woods shoot Alex Mason. Do you know who was in charge of that mission? None other than Colin Powell. Remember how earlier in this video I brought up Operation Desert Storm? Guess who oversaw that? That is right, Colin Powell. And on top of that, the Persian Gulf War against Iraq from the year 1990 to 1991. Guess what? Colin Powell. This character is set to be one of, if not the most important character going into Black Ops 6 and involved with the Gulf War. And again, it gets more interesting than this. So I'll try to go over this quickly, but what we know is we have Bill Clinton here. He is becoming president, but at the time, George H.W. Bush, or George Bush Sr., is the president at the time of 1991. We also see him and hear from him in this trailer.
While we build your trust, the world falls apart around you. If you weren't so distracted, you'd realize
nothing is what it seems.
Eventually, Bill Clinton becomes president, and guess who his advisor is at this point? Once again, Colin Powell. So he does this until the year 1993. Eventually, in the year 2001, on January 20th, he is anointed Secretary of State by not George H.W. Bush, but by his son, George W. Bush. 9 months later, 9/11 happens. At this point, everyone is now pissed at Iraq, and they go to war. At one point, Powell gave a presentation in front of the United Nations Security Council saying several different things, talking about chemical weapons, anthrax, a bunch of different things. This presentation was essentially the basis of going to war with Iraq. Turns out a bunch of what he was saying was lies. He was then later, in the year 2004, stripped of his position, and by the year 2005, on January 26th, he was removed from Secretary of State. Another character that we have in this trailer is someone by the name of Margaret Thatcher. She was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom beginning on May 4th, 1979, all the way into the year 1990, almost the end of it, moving into, guess what, 1991. She then resigned, and there were several reasons for that. She was being challenged for her position. She felt like she didn't have the support that she once did, and because of that, she resigned. But in this trailer, she is specifically talking about the secrets that were hidden by the government. In other words, she wants to reveal some secrets.
Behind closed doors, where we hide the world's secrets.
Then the final character that we have in this trailer is none other than Saddam Hussein. Now, I'm pretty sure it's set up pretty evenly for Saddam Hussein to be the villain, to be the bad guy within this game. Now, let's go to Saddam Hussein at the time of 1991.
Nothing is what it seems. But if it's truth you seek, look in the dark.
So essentially, to understand this, you have to understand what happened before this. In 1980 to 1988, Iran and Iraq were at war. Iraq was being funded by Kuwait. They had a lot of oil money, and Kuwait was lending them a crap load of money. But by the end of this war, Iraq, and specifically Saddam Hussein, did not want to pay that money back. The way that they did this was to going to war or attacking Kuwait. This then led to things like Operation Desert Storm and really a major part of the Gulf War. This is where I believe the most of Black Ops 6 is actually going to take place, with Saddam Hussein going to war with Kuwait and America fighting against it, and going into all of the details behind that battle and behind the Gulf War. Saddam Hussein being the one going to war with Kuwait and America trying to help Kuwait. This is the backstory, the backbone really, of the Gulf War. But I think the most interest in what is going to come of the story is Colin Powell. I think what happens with him and his kind of overseeing of all of these battles is going to be the backstory. And believe it or not, I truly believe that we are going to find out within Black Ops 6 that he had some bidding in what happened in the Panama City invasion, and on top of that, with Frank Woods shooting Alex Mason. I think that is going to be the most interesting part of Black Ops 6. But until we find out more, this is the story that has been set forth until now. Yes, it was quite the history lesson, and hopefully I was able to make this at least somewhat interesting. But if you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button. It'll show me to make more backstory videos like this and that you enjoy this kind of thing. If you're new to the channel, like what you see and like being kept up to date on Call of Duty and Call of Duty Story, subscribe, turn notifications on. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're